It's like the perfect readathon book. Readathon. Medievalathon. I'm not gonna say anything else. Hello everyone, my name is Holly and today I'm coming at you with a November, December, January, and half of February book haul. Yep, you heard that correctly. I am so bad at waiting way too long to film these videos, so I cannot push this book haul out any further. I need to talk about all of these books before more arrive, and I can start with a new, refreshing stack. Hopefully a much smaller one, but I mean, it's been like 3.5 months, so I've done this to myself. This haul consists of all fantasy and sci-fi, no one's surprised, and there are so many I don't even know where to start. My brain was like, Holly, you've been reading so much, you deserve more books, when in reality, this is the perfect time to not bring in more books, because I can decrease the crushing doom that is my physical TBR. I mean, my Kindle is a lost cause. There's absolutely no coming back from it. Before we get more into this very large book haul, I want to thank Skillshare for sponsoring today's video and giving you a 1-month free trial, which you can check out down below in the description box. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of different classes and all sorts of different topics. And there's one class I recently discovered that I have actually really enjoyed a lot. I have such a hard time getting anything done on time ever. I procrastinate like you wouldn't believe. So this class that has had my attention for a while is called a Productivity Masterclass, Principles and Tools to Boost Your Productivity. The last little section that I watched there, and when I say watch, I mean listen to while I clean my house because God, I need to. It was the idea that it's important to set deadlines before whatever project you're doing is due. I'm still going to be late, but it's not going to be as late. Hopefully. Skillshare is just a really nice piece of content I can throw on in the background like a podcast and learn something new while doing my like normal routinely things, and you can try it too by clicking the link in my description box. The first 1,000 people to sign up using that link will get 1 month free, opening up all sorts of classes that you can check out. Thank you again Skillshare for sponsoring today's video. Okay, so this is very unorganized, so I'm just gonna like grab books as I see them. The first book, why yes, it is behind me this whole time. It has been here for months and I pre-ordered it early last year and it finally came in November, and that is this Goldsboro edition of The Wisdom of Crowds, which completes my collection. I really don't care to own multiples of books, but when A Little Hatred came out right here, I just needed the special Goldsboro edition. And then I obviously couldn't just stop there, so now I have all 3 duplicates. So it has the beautiful UK cover, green sprayed edges. I'm actually really surprised they went with green. I thought for sure they were going to do yellow because they were like matching the US theme, but still super cool. It has matching end papers, which are really pretty, and of course it is signed by the king himself. Drew Abercrombie thinks of himself as a king, so we just go with it. So this marks 4 books signed by Joe Abercrombie that I own. I'm not a sentimental person at all, so I don't know how I got here, but I'm thrilled about it. So I do have a very large stack of books here that have been sent to me by publishers, which I am always eternally grateful for, and I'm so excited to share with you. By the way, if you follow me on Twitter, I do giveaways kind of often for the arcs that I read. So if you want a chance to own a really cool arc and my grubby germs, go follow me there. Don't worry, I sanitize before sending them off because safety. The first one is The Bladed Faith, which I just got today actually, just in time for this book haul, and I most definitely squealed just a little bit. This is a book I feel like is very anticipated to a lot of readers out there. It's definitely one of my most anticipated releases of the entire year. I read and adored the Keepers trilogy, which you can't see it. Oh my gosh, it's right here. There you go. And I've only heard even better things about this one. I'm just so happy to have yet another title by him on my bookshelves. It's the first to an adult epic fantasy series, which releases in April. It's being compared heavily to Final Fantasy, which is already a great start. It's set in a world filled with mortals and gods and follows a prince who takes up the mantle of a legendary hero, and he has to fight to take back his country with friends along the way, I'm sure. It sounds like a classic fantasy tale that are always near and dear to my heart. It sounds intense, action-packed, and knowing Daglish, I'm sure it will be. I actually plan to read this one in March. Orbit also sent over some beautiful finished copies, so I have hardcovers of The Justice of Kings and Age of Ash. Now, I have talked about both of these a lot recently. I have reviewed them both twice. Videos will be linked below for you. So I want to keep this a little bit on the shorter side, but look at these. Like, worthy of anyone's bookshelves. So The Justice of Kings was a 5-star read for me, a new favorite book. It gave me all the Witcher vibes. I couldn't put it down. It's heartbreaking and a huge mindfuck, I'm being honest, concerning how characters develop throughout the story. I highly recommend checking it out. And then the hardcover of Age of Ash, which is written by one of the co-authors of the Expanse series. This is also really enjoyable and still a story I think about quite often. And though it is dark and quite depressing, I mean, it mostly takes place in the slums, where there's a disease going around at one point, and it's following our lowborn characters. It just has this like little thread of hope kind of stringing it along. It is so mysterious and deep, and the magic is quite different as it is deeply embedded within the city, kind of like making the city its own character. I'm very happy to have a copy because, like I said, this one, like, it lives in my mind rent-free. So I have 2 arcs here. I have City of Dusk and Wild and Wicked Things. I'll be reviewing both of these in a later video, so again, I'm keeping this a little bit short. City of Dusk is the first book to a dark fantasy series. It's also this author's debut adult book, which is really exciting. I feel like a lot of YA authors have been expanding upon their writing recently, and I love it. So with this one, it primarily follows 4 heirs of 4 noble houses, and they have to band together to keep the kingdoms from tearing each other apart, basically, and they each have some different type of magic, so I'm very excited to dive into it. So Wild and Wicked Things, which I'm actually currently reading, I'm like right at the end. It's a historical fiction kind of magical realism, I would say, and the magic centers on the Prohibition after World War I, where magic was being used to create almost like these super soldiers. Fast forward, and we follow our main character who arrives on an island that is full of the rich and glamorous. It's like 1920s Gatsby vibe, and one resident is quite different. If you like your books with a spice of witchcraft, murder, and romance, then you might like this one, but I will be doing a full review of this one in my February wrap-up, so turn on my post notifications if you are interested in that review. And then I have a beautiful finished paperback of Engines of Empire. I feel like this one is starting to get away from me. I wanted to read it in January, but I never did, and now we're in the middle of February. I still really want to read it, but I'm starting to feel buried by other books, so it's unpredictable at this point when I'll pick it up, but hopefully not too far in the future. Don't hold me to that though. This is the first book in a new fantasy it released last month, so you can get your hands on it if you want to. It has a plethora of political intrigue, dark magic, even mention of like machines, and our main characters rapidly get plunged into peril as conflict between empires escalate. I'm thrilled to have this beautiful paperback. It looks really great on the shelf, and hopefully I can make room for it within my monthly reads. So Rebellion Publishing sent me over some books, and the first one is Skyward Inn. This has actually been described as like a literary sci-fi because of the surrealist take it has. Its main focus is on this space hub, which is a gathering place where the locals come to drink, brew, and share stories. It's kind of known as like an establishment of contact with alien species. It's a place that like helps with trade and cataloging history, but a strange sickness has begun to afflict humans, and the partnership between the owners of this inn begin to split apart. It sounds super weird and really interesting, and I'm glad that I was offered a chance to read it and give this one a try. Next up is The Chosen 12, which is another new sci-fi release. When I first saw this cover, I actually thought it was going to be a King Arthur retelling in space, which would actually be kind of cool. But boy, was I wrong. It's actually pitched as The Hunger Games meets The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And it actually sounds really cool. It follows a big group of children who are stranded on a space station which they were raised on, completely abandoned, surrounded by creepy robots. Like, I'm on board so hard. That sounds great. I definitely want to pick this one up soon so I can finally read a sci-fi this year. Haven't done that yet. It's all been fantasy for me, but yeah. Lord of the Flies situation, maybe? God, I hope so. The last book Rebellion Publishing sent over was Synopticon, a celebration of Chinese science fiction. So yes, this is yet another sci-fi, but it's actually a collection of short stories originally written by Chinese authors, but translated into English. Now, I'm normally not a fan of short story collections because you obviously run the risk of loving some and maybe disliking others, but this one sounds so fascinating to read because Chinese sci-fi. I'm so curious as to the cultural differences there will be concerning like space travel, aliens, robots, and it's probably going to be so much cooler. And bonus is this really beautiful cover. And like the text right here is slightly raised and slick and shiny. It's a beautiful book and the reviews for it are great. Next up, the publisher Daw sent over The Amber Crown for me to review, and I was really excited to be offered this because I was totally enraptured by the synopsis. I mentioned in my February releases video that I was very intrigued by the mention of our characters getting basically recruited on a mission from a dead king ghost, or risk a nation falling to a tyrant. And obviously things escalate from there. But man, I am so interested in just the words dead ghost king. Like, I want to read it now. So Tor sent over some very exciting books, and the first is a beautiful hardcover of Rise of the Mages. And it was really funny actually, because I talked about this in my February TBR, and literally right after I got done filming that video, this showed up. I manifested the hell out of it. I am also currently reading this one, but you'll have to wait for my February wrap-up to hear my thoughts. You're not getting anything from me yet. It's a fantasy with a very interesting magic system that's a lot more complex than I thought it was going to be, in a good way. At the very beginning, you were introduced to a father and son who have just arrived home after a long war, but some things begin to brew, some aftermath, and it definitely feels like it's going to be plot-driven, a lot of political intrigue, probably some heartache. I'll report back to you soon. Next is Servant Mage. This little tiny book, oh my gosh, it's so freaking cute. It came in the tiniest package, which confused the heck out of me. I was like, who sent me a floppy disk? And then this was inside. I mean, dragon on the cover, it already has my heart. So this story follows Felian, who is a slave mage who is forced to serve under the Liberationists, the very government who killed her parents, but she gets the opportunity to escape and fight back. This sounds like it's going to be a really quick and easy read. Again, very short. It's like the perfect readathon book. Readathon. Medievalathon. I'm not going to say anything else. I also have this arc of Dead Silence, which is in the genre of sci-fi horror. It's set within the desolate reaches of space where there is an abandoned spaceship filled with a terrifying nightmare. A lot of my friends have read this and have thoroughly enjoyed it. This releases this month, so I should really get on to reading it. But the cover is so cool and creepy, and I'm really thrilled to have it. This arc says, a ghost ship, a savage crew, unspeakable horrors. So the first book that I decided to throw in my cart because of the cover and the hype surrounding it is Piranesi. I've been eyeing this one for a while, and I feel like it's beloved by many already, and honestly I wouldn't be surprised if I read this very soon because the length is very enticing. It's being flattered beyond belief as the masterclass of storytelling, and boy do I want to find out for myself. So this follows Piranesi, who lives in a house, but one that is unlike any other. It is made up of an infinite labyrinth, and many weird and strange things occur. I've heard it is a huge benefit to go into this blind, which I am trying to do. It's supposed to be very surreal and like puzzly, and it's something I see myself getting lost in, so I'm very excited to read it and see what I think for myself. And then I have The Living Dead. So I know this isn't sci-fi or fantasy. It's the only true horror book on this list, but as someone who was obsessed with zombies in high school, I just felt like I needed to pay tribute to past me, and I decided to pick up this chunky hardcover. This universe was created by George A. Romero, the horror icon himself, but he unfortunately passed away in 2017, I believe, before he was able to like bring light to this book. So Daniel Kraus came in, kind of took the reins, and he finished it for him. There's really not much to say here, except I feel like one day I'm going to be in a huge mood to read a very long book about a zombie apocalypse, a story much darker in tone with lots of gore, and I'll have this just waiting for me. This is clocking in at nearly 700 pages. I am so out of control, somebody help me. Okay, so I still have a small stack of books left, but I've actually run out of time, so this will have to be a two-parter. I'll just save these for my next book haul, which will be much sooner, I promise. So I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, like this video, it helps me out a ton. Also, don't forget to check out Skillshare. The first 1,000 people to click my link down below will get a 1-month free trial. I highly recommend trying it at least once. So until we meet again, happy reading.